Good morning. So I'm John Harmon. I'm the president of FRSecure. We've been partnering with Computers Unlimited and helping build their security program and kind of get their culture for security up to snuff and everything. So thank you guys for having us here and allowing us to speak. How many people in this room at their company have somebody solely dedicated to cybersecurity? Good group, all right. You got a CISO or something like that? All right, how many people in this room can't spell cybersecurity? All right, cool. All right, good mix, good mix. How many people in this room have personally been a victim of a breach or a data leak or something? How many of you have seen that kind of thing play out at a company? All right, good mix. All right, so today, we're not gonna get very technical, right? If you have technical questions, you want to unpack something, you want to get into some of the details on this stuff, but essentially, I'm just going to tell 3 stories about companies that we've worked with, that we've helped through incidents, and hilarity ensues kind of thing, and just give you some tips and tricks, and I'm going to beat on the security industry, or I'm sorry, the insurance industry a little bit as well. But before we do that, I want to talk about this. Mental health is definitely my cause of choice, and FRSecure's cause of choice, and here's kind of how this plays out. Yeah, this aisle's about right. Okay, so if we split this room down this aisle, everybody on this side of the room will have some kind of mental health crisis at some point in your adult life. And half of you will do nothing about it. You will not seek help. You'll just live with it, right? Big problem. And it's sensitive, and maybe sometimes we don't like to talk about it so much, but ultimately that's the only way it gets better. Okay, I've been through this stuff myself. We lost a team member, Robbie. Didn't get the help he needed in time before he took his own life. So we take this stuff pretty seriously. We just want to raise awareness on it a little bit, let you know that there are some resources. Certainly the mental health first aid, if you want to take this on as part of your own organization. The mental health first aid training doesn't give you the power to diagnose anything. It doesn't make you a doctor, but like I was in Cabela's and ran into a guy who was having a panic attack. It teaches you what to do, like what questions to ask. Are you okay? Can I help you? Have this happened to you before? Those kinds of things. Just makes you a little more prepared, a little more aware. How do I identify these things in your friends and family and coworkers and stuff like that? So I highly recommend that for maybe like an organizational training or development or something. National Suicide Prevention Hotline finally is down to a 3-digit number. All you got to do is call 988 if you're having some bad thoughts and you want to talk to somebody. SAMHSA for substance abuse, and then Mental Health Hackers, one of my favorite organizations. It specializes in helping organizations that people who have a technical background. Those of us who sit in front of computers all day and don't talk to a lot of people. We're plugged in, we got our headphones on, we're on the screen, right? And some of the after effects you can have, some of the antisocial behavior that can come out of that, those kinds of things, they're really focused on that. So if you can please go check out some of these resources if you have a need to. Otherwise, I'll be here for a little bit after and happy to talk to you directly about it and share my experience and help you down the path as well. So FRSecure, very briefly, we believe the security industry is very broken, right? There's a lot of products being sold as silver bullets. Hey, install my software, buy this product, buy my phone, whatever it is. All your security challenges will be done. That's why we don't sell any products at all. We're only consultants, we're only testing. We do a lot of security assessments, so figuring out where you're at, where you need to be, how long it's going to take, how much it's going to cost to get there. A lot of our clients don't have people like us on staff full time, so we do virtual chief information security officer type advisory work. We certainly do any number of compliance, HIPAA and all the financial compliance, PCI, which was mentioned here before by David. Pen testing, no, that's not, are your clicky tops working? That's if you want to do some kind of attack simulation. Hey, we feel pretty good about things. We want to have somebody come in, and if the bad guys were to come after us, what could they get to? It's that kind of stuff. Hacking for hire, we call it. And then incident response, which we're going to talk about today. So we handle at FRSecure roughly 200 to 250 incidents per year that range from, hey, this happened, we're as sure as we can be, we contained it, and we just want you to double check our work, to we're completely ransomware, we're shut down, we're locked, we can't do business. We're exactly the people you call to help you untangle that kind of thing. For anybody who's looking to get into security, we do some free training. The CISSP is a certification that is pretty common in the security industry. It's very difficult to get. We have a free class that we do in the spring, and it is on YouTube, so you can catch up off season if you want. But if you're interested in that, come talk to us afterwards. We'll get you the info. And then we're also growing very fast, as you can imagine. By my estimation, there's about 50,000 companies in the United States that need help from people like us, and there's only about 1 million security professionals in the country. So, we're doing all we can. We need help. Obviously, it's been a lot to manage in the growth, but we're having fun with it. It's good. It's a fun business to be a part of. A little bit about me. I've had the beard a long time. My wife won't let me shave it, so it's staying. And then I was the 6th team member at FRSecure. We're about 100 employees now. I do a lot of this kind of thing and a lot of board and executive coaching. I'm the security translator, right? So for board members, for executive teams, for people who don't speak this language and they're getting advice or they're getting, budget proposals from their IT department and they're like, what is this crap? Right? I'm the guy that you call to help you untangle that. I am married. The lovely and long-suffering Mrs. Harmon is upstairs sleeping. And I have 2 boys who we're empty nesters now, 19 and 22 this year, so we're very excited about that and happy to be coming home. I am a classically trained singer, so I heard it was somebody's birthday. We'll get into that later. I'll help you out. And my mission, do it right, do it ethically. I believe that you can build a successful business and do business in a way that isn't needing to be unethical or isn't needing to, step on other people's throats. I like to always be above board and be honest, and I believe that we can run a successful business doing that. So that's what we're trying to do. All right, cyber insurance. How many people in this room have a cyber insurance policy? Don't you love cyber insurance? Isn't it the best process ever? It's getting so much cheaper and easier to maintain and to have and to apply for and everything. No, it really, really sucks, right? We know that. So a couple things to know. The application process, even though they're asking more stuff this year, gathers very little information that actually pertains to incident preparedness. Right? The stuff they're asking is like 2 + 2 = fish. Like they don't know what they're doing, right? They're just trying to cover their butts. Most major insurers have breach coaches, which are usually attorneys of some kind, who act as a point person between you and incident responders. So if you have a claim, you call, you're going to get put in touch with a breach coach who's going to handle that. Breach coaches, most of the time, are not security experts. They're just not. They're lawyers. Breach coaches have a stable of IR companies like us, who they call to engage when you file a claim. Very little is known about how those companies are selected and by what criteria they're added to the list. I'll say for the record, we are not on any of these lists because of this. But you can dictate who you work with in an incident ahead of time. It's like, hey, if something happens, I want to know who I'm going to be working with, and I want to know that company has my interests, not the insurance company's interests in mind when they're working my incident. You can do that, okay? Don't let them tell you you can't. And if they tell you you can't, don't sign up with that insurance company. It's a bad deal. Cyber insurance also doesn't cover all types of incidents or expenses, right? We've had full-on claims, ransomware claims, only to find out the insurance only covers if you lost equipment. If a server got bricked or something like that, you got to replace the physical equipment. It doesn't cover consulting fees, doesn't cover recovery costs, IT work, any of that stuff. You got to be real careful about what terms are inside your insurance. And because that is just as important, if not more important, than whatever rate you're getting. Don't just go with the cheapest option. Make sure it covers what it needs to. And there's very little consistency in what they're doing. Here's what happened. The cyber insurance company saw an opportunity to sell something, which insurance companies are very good at. Agreed? Right? So they went and they did their big gold rush, scoop up, gather all the market share. They signed everybody up for a cyber policy, told them it was a good idea, it was cheap, covered a lot of stuff. And then they went to Congress and they started lobbying for every compliance organization to make mandatory that you have cyber insurance. So now that you have it, it's not a nice to have anymore, you have to have it. If you want to do business with certain companies, you must have a cyber insurance policy. If you want to be compliant with something, you were doing business with the government, you have to have it, right? They're now making it mandatory, it's not optional anymore. And then they came around and started raising prices and making the terms crappier. That sounds about par for the course for insurance companies, right? Can you guys tell I really love insurance companies? Right? Cyber insurance has its place. Chances are if you don't have it, you're going to have to get on board with this, talk to your broker, make sure you're working with somebody who knows what the hell they're doing so you don't get took when the rubber really meets the road and you're going through an incident. You don't want to be figuring out what your insurance policy has. All right, I'm off my soapbox on that one. All right, so I got 3 ransomware incidents. Ransomware is predicated on the belief that there's always one person in the world who wants your data. Who is that? It's you. You want your data. So instead of stealing it, I'm gonna lock it. I'm gonna encrypt it. I'm gonna make it so you can't access it until you pay me for the keys. That's what ransomware is. All right, so I got 3 incidents I'm gonna take you through real quick. First client, about 500 employees, a manufacturer, they got ransomwared. They weren't all the way ransomware. It was working its way through that, but the attack was still active. Okay, they were not a current client of ours, and they did not have a plan in place to deal with this, an official plan. So the client calls us, we're like, yep, if you have insurance, get them on the phone, get them involved right now. The breach coach says another firm will engage. So they say, yep, I got a firm for you, but they can't offer timing. They're like, I'll get back to you when we can start working this incident. The customer's like, that's no good, asked us to step in. We got the ransomware contained, we locked out the attackers, we fixed the root cause, we got it all done. It was some RDP, open to the internet kind of situation, we got that fixed. The breach coach calls them back 24 hours later and says, okay, we're ready to engage. They're like, yeah, hey, we're done, right? We already got it figured out. But the insurance company doesn't want to cover the claim. They don't want to cover our work and the work that the customer put in to recover. Now, eventually, they did. You know, some lawyers and sending strongly worded letters back and forth, and they finally paid the claim. Total out-of-pocket cost for the company was about $15,000 because they didn't have to pay the ransom. And that's about normal, right? What are you hearing on the news right now? The average breach costs $10 million or whatever stupid, ridiculous number it is. It's really not, right? It's whatever your deductible maybe is on your insurance claim, but the cost to you as a business isn't as outrageous as everybody's making it seem. The average ransomware, like what they're asking for certain size companies, depends on how big you are. They sometimes know that you already have an insurance policy. They know the limits of it. They're going to ask for exactly that number. You know, it's $1 million, $2 million, but your out of pocket isn't going to be that much. That make sense? Any questions on that? All right, cool. So the lesson here is having insurance is not an incident response plan. The two don't match. I have an insurance. If I ask you, like, do you have an incident response plan? Yep, I have cyber insurance. We are in disagreement. I don't believe you have a plan. Have your own plan. The man shuts us down. This one was really interesting. So, little bigger company, professional services company. They were ransomware again, fully encrypted. So the deed was done. They are a client of ours, and they did have an incident response plan in place. Right? This is me being honest and saying that just because you work with me doesn't mean you won't get hacked. It's going to happen. Everybody gets caught on the chin. Right? Client calls us, we say call the insurance company. The attacker, when we started investigating it, actually botched the install a little bit. And we realized that this was going to be a little out of sorts, so the backups also were toast, so we couldn't restore from backup. You know, we're going through all of our kind of checklisty things. The attacker starts going quiet for long periods of time, which is odd because they want their money, right? So why isn't he being responsive, he or she? And the breach coaches advises starting to negotiate the price because they're not holding up their end of the bargain, right? So they're like, hey, you know, see if you can get them to cut the price down a little bit. So they did that, and instead the attacker says, no, now I'm going to double the ransom. Now you're going to pay me more, and they cut the time frame in which they wanted the money. Okay. The FBI is notified, which is standard practice. Turns out that whoever is running this code is tied to ISIS somehow. So the insurance, so we never talked to the FBI, the client never talked to the FBI, the insurance company talked to the FBI and came back and said, you can't pay this ransom because it would be funding terrorism. You can't do it. So you had to painstakingly go and rebuild the network, which cost a lot of money, and the insurance company didn't want to pay for that. They were willing to pay a ransom, but they weren't willing to pay to rebuild the network. Now, I went to an InfraGard conference and I met the special agent in charge of cybersecurity for the central region of the United States. And she said, I have no idea how that would have happened. There's no way we can tell a company not to pay the ransom. Yes, we have a list of known terrorists. Yes, we know what they're operating. Yes, we can identify them by their code, but that story doesn't jive. So we were very confused and tried to follow up on it, obviously got nowhere. So that's one of those like mysteries to me still is how that happened. I don't know if the insurance company was lying to us. I don't know if they got an overzealous FBI agent. I don't know if they were talking to Homeland Security instead of the FBI. I have no idea what was happening, but they would not pay that ransom. And also air gap your backups. Anybody not know what air gap means? That means that whatever you're backing up your data needs to be completely separate from where the original data is. It needs to be tested. There's all kinds of things that you need to do, because if you get ransomware and you have good backups, you can tell the attackers to pound sand and you restore your backups. But if they got your backups too, they're in full control. There's nothing you can do. You might lose all your data. Right? Okay. Incident 3, this is the most fun one. A 2,000 employee critical access hospital, healthcare organization. This place has an ICU, they have an emergency room. This is a very, very big kind of regional hospital that we worked with. They were ransomware, they were fully encrypted. They did have an incident response plan in place, and they were our client. And when I say they sort of had an incident response plan in place, here's what happened. They only had a digital copy. It was on a file share somewhere. And what happened to the file share? It was encrypted. So they're like, well, get your incident response plan in place and all that kind of, and use it. And they're like, yeah, we like print it off, stick it in a drawer somewhere, so when they encrypt all your stuff, you still have access to it, right? So anyway, the client called our CEO because there's a personal relationship there between our CEO and their CIO. So they call him at like 2 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday. They're like, hey, we're having a problem. He's asleep. So he doesn't get the message until the morning, and then says, okay, call the incident response team, gets our team involved. They greenlight us. They were getting in. We're figuring it all out and trying to go. The CIO and CFO disappear. They call the insurance company, which we advise them to do. And the insurance company says, nope, you can't work with FRSecure. You got to work with our people. And so we're down the path already. We got to cease work, turn over all of our evidence to another firm, and they start going. The entire network is encrypted. The attacker starts going silent, and they can't use their backups. 2.5 weeks later, they finally got phones and email up. Did I mention this is a critical access hospital? Now, the New York Times finally published last year that somebody died from a cyber attack. Now, I've known that's happened for years and years because of this. Because I work with a lot of hospitals, and I know when they get attacked, they can't call nurses in, they can't page doctors in, they can't monitor their medical devices, they can't do anything because they're just shut down. I know that somebody's died from a cyber attack for many, many years. So why do I care about this so much? It's because of this. It's because when we get this wrong, get the security stuff wrong, people get hurt, right? It matters. You can't just stand idly by knowing what we know and allow this to happen. So yeah, we get a little passionate about it, and I give presentations and call them out. Of course, the names and dates and everything have been changed to protect the innocent here, but a $1 million 6-month sprint was approved by the board to fix this issue and to get them back online fully. But they didn't have the resources or the partnerships or the staff to actually pull that off. And I can tell you that 18 months later, they're still not done with it. This is huge. Now, this is a 1 in a million shot. I'm not here to scare you. This is not going to happen to you. It's not very likely. Okay, my point is that when something like this does happen, it's very impactful. So you want to make sure you're managing to it, right? It's like having fire insurance, having, like a hurricane's probably not going to hit Montana, right? Not very likely, but could you be affected by a forest fire maybe? A blizzard? That's what we're talking about, that 1 in a million event, that 1 in a 1,000-year flood. So the lesson here is prevention and preparation are cheaper than response. It's always cheaper and easier. So let me make the math easy for you as I go to kind of the best practices here. It is probably pretty likely that you're going to spend between $100,000 and $200,000 in deductibles or dealing with cyber incidents or paying people like us to untangle things in the next 3 years. That's about as average as I can make it. That's what the cash outlay is going to be, $100,000 to $200,000. Now, is it worth spending $500,000 a year on security stuff to prevent that kind of event from happening? No, it doesn't. Nobody in this room is in business to secure information. You have your own business to run. That's not a good ROI. Is it worth spending 20, 30 grand a year, 50 grand a year to make sure that kind of event doesn't happen, or at least make it a little less likely, or when it does happen, it's a little less impactful, right? Start doing the math on this stuff. Start trying to, justify what should you be doing and how much effort should you be putting in. I don't want to scare you into overspending on security. That's not a good thing, right? It generally gets a lot of blowback from a user group as well, right? There's a way to go about this. But you should have an incident response plan. Incident response plans take work. It's not sexy work. In fact, it's pretty awful, right? By my estimation, there's only about 20 people on planet Earth who actually enjoy writing security policies and plans like this, and they all work for FRSecure. I found them. So I know they're not in this room, right? It's not fun work, but it's got to be done. Incident response plans should cover more than IT. Don't just lay this at the feet of your IT department and walk away and say, you guys got it. This is the whole organization. They need to understand what risks they're mitigating against. They need to understand who all's involved, who has access to what, who's using what, right? This is a business issue. Incident response plans should be tested, right? I don't care if you all sit in a room and go like, hey, let's just hypothetically say that somebody in accounts payable for whatever reason sent an entire spreadsheet of our employees' social security numbers to a third party, and after he had sent, realized, oops, maybe I shouldn't have done that. That's an incident, right? Like, what do you do? What would be the process? How do you investigate that? How do you know? You need to notify. Just start testing those things. See how your incident response plan, see where you're like, oh, yeah, we got step 5 here. That really doesn't apply to this incident. We need to define that out more. They could be done quarterly. Just sit in a room with a committee and just go through it. It's not hard. If you really want to cry during an incident response test, then I got some people that will be happy to come help you through a tabletop exercise, and it'll be, a lot of fun, I promise. Have your own relationship with an IR team. So how this works with most insurers is that you pick like, yep, I want to work with these guys, whether it's FRSecure or somebody else that you know that has an IR team, and you go to your broker and you say, I have an IR team that I want to make sure if something happens that my insurance company will pay. There's a simple form you fill out with their information and to kind of disclose what certifications they have, what experience they have. Normally the security company will fill this out. They put it on file with the insurance company, and that way when something happens, you get to work with your firm and not whatever random ass firm they're going to assign to you. That make sense? Okay. A good plan is your plan, not mine or anybody else's. Do not go Google incident response plan, put your logo on that plan, and call that your plan. Not a thing, right? We do have templates. They're free. You can get them at FRSecure.com. We don't charge for them. Any policy template, by the way. They're good. They're simple. They're short. They work. So if you need that, go ahead. And again, cyber insurance is not a plan. Any questions about this or anything else? If you have anything, I'm very happy to talk to you. And thank you very much. I really appreciate it, everybody.